Hey guys, a new version of linter has been released. It's now at 2.0 and I thought I'd redo this video so that you can see how it works. I haven't fixed any of the errors, I've added in new things, and I haven't actually used the linter, so I want to get you to see how the linter works, but also how I would go about fixing any kind of problems or things that I don't understand that I come across. So let's get started. Now I just wanted to show you something here that the linter won't show up as soon as we start. So if I open exercise 1, which is here, this little green dot down here will turn into a blue dot. So watch it while I'm opening. And it spins for a bit and then it gives me the linter. Now when you first open it, this could spin for quite a long time if you've got a longer file, but it's just going to keep going for a bit. So I've added a few more errors in than are in the regular file, so we'll fix them too. But the rest of it is just the same. So just to check that this thing actually runs, because we know that it's syntactically correct Python, it's just not very nicely laid out. So we'll press Control Shift B, and if you get this, it's just saying I don't know which thing to run. So just say exercise 1, and this might take a little time as well because it's the first time we've run it today. So just let it go. Sometimes it can take a few minutes. Well, it's a good time for the airplane to go over the head. There we go. Right. So, yep, it's running. It's fine. We don't get any errors. That's great. So we can just press escape to get rid of that. So escape gets rid of any little windows that are up at the bottom. So the way I would handle this is I would say jump to line 8.6. So that's line 8, character 6. So if I go across here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I guess. And the error we're getting is multiple spaces after keyword. So that's these spaces. So we can just highlight them, press delete, and that error goes away, and now we're presented with another one. And then so we can go here, missing white space around operator. Let's see what this button does. I haven't used it yet. Doesn't seem to do anything. Well, that's good. So that is this problem where we have things crammed around here. Now we can either solve this by just going to each we can go to each comma and press space, and that will make that go away, or we can do a little bit of a trick. So we know that this pattern, this little kind of face pattern, is a problem, and so if we press Alt F3, that will highlight all of them, and now we can do a multi-cursor solution to that. So now we have all these cursors. Now if we press space, they'll all be done in one go. So this is just one of those advantages of getting to know your editor. So again, we have an error here. We can highlight it and we get the message about what it is. Missing white space around operator. So if you remember things like the equals sign, the plus sign, the multiply sign, that kind of thing, they're all operators. So this thing, the linter wants us to put a space either side of them, just to spread things out. And it's nice to have your code nicely spread out so that you get some breathing space for your brain to understand what's going on. So we're linting fine all the way down to here now. Now this is one that a lot of people have had problems with because it doesn't make total sense. Continuation line under indented for visual indent. Now if we didn't know what this meant, we could, I think we have to do it down here, highlight this problem, and then we can copy it, just Control C, or yeah, just with Control C, it doesn't work with the right click. And then we could just go and Google the error and see what it says, and it will take us to a Python style guide or to Stack Overflow or something like that, and it'll explain what the problem is. But the simple way to do this, or not simple way, if you know what you're doing, is just to make this line up. So that quote and that quote line up because they belong to the jobs list. It's just a list that's spread over multiple lines. So now these line up, and we've got this as a block, and we can read that as a block. So we can break lines so that they don't get too long, and that makes it a bit tidier, a bit nicer to read. Okay, so that error is gone. So again, missing white space around operator, so that's the equals. So if we want to be fancy, instead of pressing space and then moving somewhere else and pressing space, we could put in two cursors. And we put in two cursors by holding down control and clicking, holding down control and clicking again. So that allows us to put in multiple cursors, and then we press space and two spaces go in. And then that error's gone. So next line, module level import not at top of file. This one is a little bit confusing, a little bit hard to read. What it's doing is saying that modules that are imported, so it's a bit like saying at the beginning of a file, import all of this useful stuff that I'm going to need later. So if you import it later, you won't be able to run it because it hasn't happened yet, because Python code runs from the top to the bottom. And so if it's here and we need to use OS up here, it'll have a tantrum. You can import stuff later if you want, if you know that you're not going to need it until later, but it's just good practice to put it at the top. Now, in this code, we have some other things that have higher precedence, but there's no way the linter can know about that. So the doc string for the whole file is the thing with the highest precedence in this file, and that goes right at the top. And then these two future imports, future has to come first. Now that's just a weird one-off thing. There aren't any other functions that do that. So we want to put the OS line, import OS line, just here. And we could just highlight it and cut it and go up here and paste it like that. But there's a nicer way to do that in Atom. So if we're on this line, if we hold down control and then use the up and down arrows, we can move lines around. So I can move this line up and down, and that's because I'm just holding down control and pressing up and down. And we can move that up to there. And I quite like to put a space in after my imports, just so I can see which bits, which is the import block and which is the rest of the code block. Okay, let's go back down here. Now the next error is on this line. Missing white space after comma. So we can't use the Alt F3 trick here because the pattern is different every time. So that place it's quote comma 7, this is 5 comma quote, that kind of thing. There are ways around that, but we're not going to cover them until much later in the course. So let's do a multi-cursor. Click, click. So hang on, start from scratch. So I make the first click, now put down control, click, 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 space. Right, now those errors disappear. Now we've got another error here, missing white space again, so space, space. Now we've got a line too long error, which I've zoomed in a little bit too much. This line, this very faint line on the right here is the 80 character line. And so this line here is 83 characters long, and it needs to be 79 characters long. So we can break this file, and I saw a few people in class breaking it here, which caused an error because this comma isn't part of the list, it's just inside the string, so it's part of a value that's in the list. So we need to break it somewhere like here. And now we get two new errors. One is trailing white space. Trailing white space is bad because it adds differences to your files, so you get git diffs that don't make any sense, but it's not actually doing anything, so it's good to keep it out of the way, otherwise you get meaningless diffs. And then this error here, we get our old friend the continuation line under indented for visual indent, which is a bit of a mouthful, but that's just the same as above. We just line that up, and there we go. So now that one in the quote is lined up. We could break it anywhere, and I saw a few people having trouble with breaking it at this point because they were lining up these brackets, but actually that needs to be in one more because this needs to line up with the bracket like that, because this stuff is inside these brackets. Okay, good. Let's go back to the list here. Expected 2 blank lines, found 0. So let's jump to there. Right. So this is because functions, they want to be spaced out. So that, because functions are an important thing and they want to have a bit of breathing space so you can see where they start and stop. So we just bang in 2 lines there and 2 lines there, and we get rid of that error. So we're down to 3. So let's jump to where this one is, see what it says. So there we go. There's white space before the bracket. So when we're defining a function, there shouldn't be white space before the bracket. And then here, well, we've got white space after the bracket. No, white space before the colon. So again, let's just tighten that up. That's fine. And then our last error is this one here. White space after opening bracket. So if we've got empty brackets, they want to be empty. Right, there we go. Now there's a couple of other errors that might come up, so let's have a look at them. So this line here, no new line at the end of the file. It just wants to see a blank line at the end of the file, no white space, just a blank line. And that is a way of just kind of keeping things tidy. There's another thing that's not showing up, which I'm not sure why, is that the docstring linting isn't complaining as much as I thought it would. Normally you would want to make this A, start with a capital letter, B, end with a full stop, and C, be in imperative mood, as they say. So what that means is just say something really bold with a doing word at the beginning. So tidy up this file, full stop. And then it would want a blank line, and then it would normally also complain there. And so that now is a tidy docstring, which when we do imports will look nice and neat in the auto completion stuff. The other things that you should probably see now is there's a little counter down here, and that'll show you how many linter errors, how many linter warnings, and how many linter infos. I haven't had any linter infos yet, so I'm not really sure what they do. And you can do other things too. So if I put in some errors and some warnings and some more errors, we can now sort these by clicking on the little arrow that pops up next to the name. So we can sort them by severity, we can sort them by the type of error they are. No, we can't. Strange. Provider and the line number. So if you want to, you can order your errors from the bottom to the top, or just do the errors, not the warnings. So you just get that option. So there it is. It's all done. We save the file, and there we go. A couple of people were asking how to save in Atom. Normally I just press Control S, but in Linux, which is the same as in Macs, your file menu isn't attached to the window like it is in Windows, so it would be here. It's actually up in the top left hand corner of the screen. So, and I don't think my screen capture stuff is taking that, but right up in the top left hand corner of the screen you will see your regular file menu stuff. So I hope that's helped out. I'll see you later.